Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Zines. I'm Jen Mayer. I'm a designer, a printmaker, an artist. I write, design, and publish 2 weekly newsletters, Makeist and Substack. And today I'm going to take you behind the scenes of Strange Gardens zine. This is a project that I did while I was taking a 6-week risograph printing class at Spudnik Press here in Chicago. I was just learning how to print, and so I really just wanted to play with colors and layers and different papers. There's no text or content, there's just artwork. And so let me show you how I put it together. First, I started by gathering the artwork that I wanted to use. And I started with printing textures on the gel plate. And if you're not familiar with the gel plate, this is what it looks like. It's this flexible material. Honestly, I don't really know how it works or why it works. It's made of gelatin, obviously. That's where the name comes from. But it's this cool texture, this cool surface that you can use acrylic paint on, and you just roll on the paint, and then you can make textures and prints and pull prints from it. In this case, I just was using black because all I wanted was these textured, contrasted textures to print on the risograph layers. And you can see here, this is made from big bubble wrap. And then this is a small bubble wrap. And you just lay it on the plate, and then you pull it up, and then you pull a print. And so this is kind of like my master. This is called a ghost print, which is what's left on the plate after you pull the first print. And this is, like I said, this is a combination of the small bubble print and the big bubble print. And I also wanted more geometric, straight edges to contrast the organic, circular nature of the bubble wrap. And so I printed these edges from, I think it's called dot matrix paper. I don't know. I've had it for a long time. I just keep kind of like carrying it around from place to place, and I'm not totally sure what it was used for. I don't even know if it's used anymore. But these are the edges from that paper. And I just printed the strips, and so it's a nice contrast to the bubble wrap. And then these are drawings that I did, that I scanned in and printed out. And so this was what I started with. This is how I made my masters on the risograph. A risograph is basically a combination, like a cross between screen printing and like a copy machine. It's an office machine that was used in Japan. And so every master that you make is it's basically a one color screen, kind of like a screen print. And so I did masters of all of the black and white prints and artwork. You see here, I did this one in teal. This one I did in fluorescent pink. This one I did in both green and yellow. And this one, fluorescent pink and fluorescent orange. And then all of the line artwork I did in black. So that was the last layer that went down. So the plan was I was just going to print a bunch of paper with all these textures overlapping and just sort of see what came up. It was experimental, and I just wanted to play. I wanted to play with different papers and different colors and different textures. And so I'll talk you through. Most of the prints that I made were just on white paper. These were just on white. You can see where I'm starting to layer This is a fluorescent orange, or I'm sorry, a fluorescent pink of the big bubble wrap. You can see this is the bubble wrap, but a fluorescent orange. This is the green lines. This is on yellow paper. I played around with craft paper. I also brought different types of graph paper. This is a little bit thinner, but has this graph line artwork on it. This is like a ledger paper that I printed on. And of course, I printed on Astrobrites because I love Astrobrites. The Astrobrite cover stock is what I used for the covers of the zines. I used orange, yellow, green, and pink. But I also printed same artwork, same colors, printed on label stock. So this is like 6-up labels. I have big labels. These are 12, I believe. Yep. Can I do math? And I printed them on both white and this like craft color. So at the end of printing, I have this kind of like stack of all these papers and all these labels and these covers, and they all kind of come together. And then what I started doing was marrying them. So since it was all the same artwork and they were all in the same place, the only variation was like layering and the colors, and sometimes I would flip the orientation, but I was kind of working with this like library of textures and artwork. And so then I would like match it up. And so you could see this is the same black line artwork, not necessarily the same background though, but that's what's going to make it interesting. So I'd peel them off, and then it's almost like kind of like putting together puzzle pieces, right? Kind of line them up as like best you can and stick them down. And so now this kind of becomes a little bit more interesting. And I didn't really have a plan. I just sort of kept sticking things down. And I would also, it's easy to get lost and not know like what you're looking at. But once I got in the flow, it was a lot of fun. One thing that I did notice though, risograph ink never truly dries. The lighter the coverage, the quicker it sinks into the paper and kind of dries, but really it never truly dries. And so if you've got prints that have heavier ink coverage, it will start to come off on your fingers. And so as I was putting these together, I noticed that my fingers were getting dirtier, and I would have to periodically wash them because otherwise they were like offsetting onto the prints. So I just kept doing that. I kept adding different, pieces to the prints and just experimenting and playing and having fun. Using different label stocks on different paper stocks in different colors and just kind of seeing what came up. And so again, at the end of this process, I have a whole stack of all of these papers. Oh, one note. As I was going along, then I realized, I have all these cool, like negative spaces, right, from where the labels came off. And I don't want to waste them because they've got printing on them and they're interesting. And so I also started to apply these to the sheets of paper and covers. And they don't always match up, but they don't have to. It's just having fun. So now I've got these sheets and I folded them into different folios. And now I have a stack of all these folios. And that's when I started bringing them together into the zines. And I didn't have a plan. There wasn't anything that I was specifically looking for other than just an interesting collection of different paper types and different labels and different artwork. So this is actually a map that I printed on. I had a few sheets of map paper. So I tried to see if, the spreads laid out such that there was like a bigger pattern on the left side and a smaller pattern on the right. I tried to make sure that some of the pages had a little less ink coverage, some had more. Like this doesn't have any of the black drawings on it. So I just put those all together. I added a cover, did the same thing where I put some labels on the cover. And then I added the title of the zine. And for that, these are actually laser printed. I didn't print these on the Riso, but these are also labels. Here, I'll show you what I did there. I just cut off the bottom and the tops, and then added those to the cover and just kind of found what I thought was like the best spot. That looks pretty good. Now, how about there? I printed them in both pink and yellow. So depending on the color of the cover, I would decide if the pink or the yellow worked better. And then last is I included just a clear sticker with my contact information and my name and all that. I used my handy dandy booklet stapler. It's got this nice curve, this angle to saddle stitch them. These are already saddle stitched, so I'm not going to go through that. But I wanted to point out, I used these bright pink staples. You can get staples in all different colors, which is like a lot of fun to play with too. You can match the staple to the color of your zine. And that was Strange Gardens. On the last day of class, it was 6 weeks, and there was 3 of us in the class. And so on the last day, we did a zine exchange and traded the zines that we each made. And so I thought it might be fun to also show you what some of the other students made. So this is Jasmine. She would come into class with these really cool, like digital collages, and she would scan them in, and she would make masters in roughly CMYK. So she used teal, fluorescent pink, yellow, and black. And so these are her zines. This is one that used all 4 of those colors. This is interesting because it's the same zine, but this is just fluorescent pink and fluorescent orange. And this, she added the teal and then the final layer of black, the K. So when you hear CMYK, that's cyan, magenta, yellow, and black is the K. And it's K because it's called the key plate. It's the plate that adds like the final like detail. And you can really see that here in Jasmine's example. This is cool. I think it's really cool, just the fluorescent pink and the orange. But you can see how much more detail you get when you add that final key plate. And then totally different style. This was Clara's, and she printed in teal, and I don't remember the exact red that Spudnik has, but one of the Riso reds. And this is the combination of the teal and the red, which I think looks so cool. This is sort of, Riso's never going to get a perfect registration. And that's, can frustrate some people, but then other people, like, that's what they love about it. And I love how that is off register, and it's got that like red and teal border, which is so cool. So this inside is a photo that she made her masters from, but the outside, she made her masters from an actual piece of fabric that she like laid down on the scanning bed and just scanned in the fabric. So those are the zines from our 6-week Riso printing class at Spudnik. So thank you for joining. If you have any questions, this is my first live doing the behind the zine, so I am not technically able to look at questions while I'm doing it. So if you have any questions, you can post them in the comments of the replay and I'll do my best to answer. I will also include, if there's anything that I talked about, like gel plates or the stapler, I'll include links to those if you're interested. And thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time.